Hostess Brands is a widely known company that specializes in packaged breads and desserts. Some of its most popular products include Wonder Bread and Twinkies. The company began in the 1930s by selling Hostess cupcakes, which are still popular today. It saw tremendous success through much of its first several decades. In the past, Hostess has had great success from their current product offerings, but many new competitors are putting pressure on the company, directly affecting their margins. Hostess Brand's target market is people of lower incomes as well as the older generations. Even still, Hostess Brands is a very large company with more potential upside. One big pressure point for the company is the fact that their average selling point is $4.75, compared to the sweet and baked goods market average selling point of $3.64. It is obvious that this should be a high priority item for the company to immediately address, but doing so would impact their bottom line, which is not necessarily something that they could manage to do at this point in time. The company came out of bankruptcy in 2009 and immediately attempted to innovate and change its product offerings to better align with the changing times. The idea was that this would also increase revenue and help pay high labor costs. For example, the company introduced Twinkie Bites, which were 100 calories each. Unfortunately, new products like these didn't outweigh the other factors that were in play. The company continues to deal with high labor costs from their union contracts, and in addition, the Hostess Brands has brought in new private equity investors, which has exponentially increased its debt. The problem statement, as our team sees it, is that Hostess Brand is carrying too much debt and has unsustained labor cost. Given its limited number of innovative products to drive growth, it must find a way to decrease debt and/or labor costs with its current product offerings as new products are being developed.
To solve this problem, there are a number of choices that Hostess Brand can make. One option would be to immediately cut delivery of its products to smaller retailers, like gas stations in rural areas, and other locations with low sales of Hostess Brands, where the travel costs outweigh the revenue gained. Doing this would probably help Hostess Brand reduce their costs while keeping their higher profit customers and can raise their money balance in the short run. In addition to this, they can probably reduce the amount of employees they need because demand would be lower. However, it would reduce their overall share in the market, as well as make it harder for Hostess Brand to regrow as a company when it wants to expand again. Another option would be to streamline and standardize its production service. Since Hostess Brand grew by absorbing competitors, it currently uses a system with thousands of different delivery routes and productions from many different local bakeries, as well as contracts with many different unions and workers which all represent and request different concessions. This current method has a lot of excess costs and takes up precious time. Hostess Brand should consolidate its production into a few larger factories and warehouses and coordinate specific areas for combined delivery so that it will require less overhead and communication among a large amount of small groups of people. This method will make it easier to bring all the workers together and combine the unions so that the Hostess Brand does not have to address each union separately. There will be some fixed costs and variable costs from building up factories and maintaining new equipment, and it will take time to relocate people and redraw the lines of delivery. But overall, the cost of overhead will go way down and revenue will increase as Hostess is able to key in on getting their products out to retailers more easily and consistently. A third option would be for Hostess Brand to expand its range of products. Its currently unhealthy products can be aimed towards bigger market grocery stores and places of convenience, but people are definitely moving towards more health-oriented foods. The research into creating foods that are healthy and still taste like their products will take some time and money, and they'll have to cut out a lot of sugar and other unhealthy bits. But it will allow Hostess Brand to tap into a rapidly expanding market. With its name brand already well established, it can make a strong dent in this market. As the price of flour and other baking ingredients increases, it may become cheaper and easier to switch to other healthier ingredients and substitutes.
Out of all of the alternatives mentioned, we strongly believe Hostess will be able to stabilize itself financially by consolidating its factories and streamlining its production line, which in turn minimizes their labor and operating costs. By only keeping the 3 necessary factories open to produce and distribute its products to the eastern, Midwest, and western regions of the country, Hostess can save thousands on factory costs, including but not limited to land costs, energy and utility costs, maintenance costs, and other factory overhead costs, and not to mention labor costs and depreciation. The second part of this plan is for Hostess to update and streamline its production line. Hostess Brands will be able to ensure the reduction of spending on the different types of equipment and ancillary repairing costs associated with each, keeping its production line functioning exactly the same across all 3 locations. Lastly, shutting down locations and investing more in machinery will ultimately lead to less union laborers being employed with the company. Naturally, with factories being shut down, the company will have to downsize its labor force. And with the implementation of newer and more streamlined production equipment and machines, the number of employees and operators needed will also decrease, as the machines will be handling most of the production work. This combination will cut labor and union costs down considerably. Ultimately, Hostess will be able to have a more viable and sustainable operating model by closing down factories and updating its production system.
As shown in the income statements for 2010 to 2012 for Hostess Company, the firm poses losses that increase year over year due to high operating costs and lower sales. If no change were to occur, we can see a significant increase in losses, and the company won't be able to sustain itself for much longer. With the recommended changes put in place, however, we can start seeing an increase in revenues, decrease in operating expenditures, which would result in less of an impactful loss, and the company is projected to start profiting after 2015. The balance sheet also shows the same scenario in the sense that the liabilities continue to increase from 2010 to 2012, while overall assets decrease. Ultimately, the pro forma financial statements show the impact that the recommendations can have on reducing debt and start making a profit in 3 to 4 years' time.
In conclusion, this report fully portrays the economic situation surrounding the 2012 bankruptcy of Hostess Brands. Our findings found that the biggest contributor to Hostess's accumulating debt are operating costs and unhealthy products that do not appeal to the low-fat, low-sugar market trends. This affected Hostess's sales growth while adding on to ever-growing operational costs. Our proposed plan will combat these issues and allow Hostess to be more efficient and centralized as a company. Our plan to consolidate factory and production locations and streamline the production will downsize the labor force, and it can save Hostess thousands on factory costs, including but not limited to energy and utility costs, maintenance costs, and other factory overhead costs, labor costs, and depreciation. Other alternatives for financial stability of Hostess include immediately cutting delivery for their goods of smaller retailers and expanding the range of products more towards the trendy, health-oriented foods. As we can see in the previously mentioned pro forma statement, the operational costs have been a huge contributor to the company's accumulating debt over the past 3 years leading up to 2012. By implementing our plan, profits will start to emerge year over year as operational costs decrease, and with our recommendations, we are confident that Hostess Brands will take a better, more strategic approach and become more financially stable.